Do, do, do. Do, 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 do. I've been walking Central Park, singing after dark. People think I'm crazy. Shuffling on my feet, shuffling through the street. What's the matter with you, boy? Sometimes I sing to myself. Ooh, 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 You've been fooling with my time, messing with my mind, Lord, I miss you, child. A little something. The days were long and lonely, but he got used to it. He'd never had much more than this, so it wasn't hard. Not so hard. Sometimes he'd see people, a mother and her child, a group of school children, a man and a woman out together on some sort of date, and he'd feel it. He'd feel that loneliness creep in and start to take swipes at him. Why don't you have that? Why doesn't some girl want to be with you? Why doesn't your mother want to be around you? Where are your friends? It's a drudge sometimes, this living, and you can get right into that drudgery. You can settle right into it, make it your daily pattern, make it your routine, your day, your night, your waking and sleeping. If ever anyone was able to get to sleep. It did occur to him, and not in any dramatic sort of way, but it did occur to him, to ask himself if it was worth it all, to get up in the morning, to go to a job, to come home to a dank, shitty little flat, to eat alone. If ever anyone was able to eat. What's your life worth? It's a question that comes to most people as they age. What's your life worth? Are you doing something worthwhile with your life? Are you wasting your time? Do you have a full life? All good questions. Sometimes one doesn't like the answer, but all good questions all the same. He didn't ask himself these too often. There were only so many times you could receive a negative answer before you did something drastic, and he wasn't quite ready to go there. Maybe someday, but not today. And so it was, back and forth, home, job, home, job. People complain, other people, better educated and better paid people, that this is their lot. The father of two, who has a wife who goes out to work, and he goes out to work where? Oh, obviously a law firm. The father of two with a wife and two beautiful, healthy children, who has a dog or two, who lives in a gorgeous house with a gorgeous yard, whose parents are alive, whose children have alive grandparents on both sides probably, who comes home to a gorgeous house and a gorgeous wife and two gorgeous children and their gorgeous dogs and home entertainment system and fancy takeout whenever they feel like it, and trips to Italy and to France and to New York City. This person might complain, while living in the best neighborhood in his particular city, "Oh, all I ever do is go from home to my job and back again. It doesn't really matter where I live, I suppose." They act like they're stuck, but they don't know from stuck. They don't know the gray-green pall of life, of a repetitive life with repetitive tasks and an empty room. That's what you get at the end of the day if you are not a better person. An empty room and thick, gray-green muck to wade through. Wake up in the dark, come home in the dark, and in between this sludge. It sticks to you and everyone can see it. Everybody knows. "I am in hell," he said to his reflection one morning. "I am in hell." It sounds different when you say it out loud. He descended the stairs that same morning, that same dark morning, going to his same job. He walked home when it was finished and thought, This can't be sustained. He fished around in his pocket for his keys, and when he found them and tried to make out the lock on this dark, cold night, he saw it there, right at his feet, a small black and white cat. It didn't make a sound, just stared at his shoe and sat there, head bent, as if thinking or waiting. "Hello," he said to it. It looked up and sort of jerked its chin up at him. He could have been imagining that, but he hadn't had a drink yet, and he's fairly sure that's what happened. Blinked slowly, then turned its head toward the door, little black ears twitching. He nodded, unlocked the door, and followed it inside. It sat down in the middle of the floor, curled its tail around its feet, and waited. He went to the small fridge. He didn't know what cats eat. Meat seemed a likely option, but he didn't do that. He poured out a small saucer of milk and gave it to the little animal. It lapped it up gratefully. It didn't seem like enough. He set the bottle he just bought on the kitchen table and crouched down to have a better look at it. At her, he decided. She was grumpy looking, but that was just the markings on her face. They made her look as if she was furrowing her brow and squinting, which of course she couldn't do. Her whiskers were long and white and sprouted not only from her muzzle, but also from the place where her eyebrows would be, if cats had eyebrows, which of course they don't. "I'm going out to get you some dinner," he said. "Won't be long." She blinked at him again, and off he went back to the corner shop. He picked up 2 cans of tuna, and the girl at the cash gave him a funny look, as if it was weird he just bought whiskey and now he's buying tuna on a separate venture. Somehow, the separateness of these activities did make it weird, and he acknowledged this internally and gave her a little smile. She didn't smile back. Girls don't do that with him unless they're looking at him like he might be part of some pledge drive to help the homeless or not gifted or mentally deranged. He took his tuna and returned to his flat. The cat was just where he left her, waiting. He opened a can and emptied the contents onto a new saucer. He watched her eat it for a moment. She was hungry. When she lifted her head, she seemed dizzy and satiated. He knew that feeling, and he crouched down to her, ran his hand gently over her head. She pressed her head into his palm, and he smiled. Poor old darling. She stood and went to sit on his couch, taking the whiskey with him. He went to open it, and she hopped up onto his lap. She circled, finding the best spot, then settled down and began to purr. She was warm, and with this and her tiny engine, he felt sleepy, and suddenly like he should actually go to bed and go to sleep instead of simply passing out. He set the bottle down on the ground and swung his legs up onto the couch. The cat inched her way up, slowly and stealthily, from his lap to his collarbone, and as he fell asleep, he could hear her purr and felt her warm, small breath on his neck. It's nice to have something small to take care of. It's good. He'd never had a pet before, never spent, at least not since he was very young, much time around animals, around living things. It gives a shape to life, to the pattern. It gives you something to wake up for and something to come home to. He wasn't a big talker, but it gave a direction to the things he did say when he was alone, which made him feel less crazy and less alone. They got to have a nice little routine, he and Kara. She was always waiting for him at the door when he came home, and then they'd have dinner together, play with a tinfoil ball, watch a bit of telly, read, go to bed, all the things he normally did, well, minus the tinfoil ball. Only now he had company, and in the morning she jumped on top of him and scared the hell out of him. Every day. She seemed to want to go outside, and so he didn't keep her in while he was away. But when he was there, she preferred to be with him. He preferred it too. He didn't stop drinking during this period, but it did become less of a focus. Even he realized this. It became less urgent to open that bottle when he knew she needed to eat. Sometimes he even skipped going to the shop, knowing she'd be there and worried, so worried, that something may happen to her, or that she'd think he just didn't care about her. What a terrible feeling that is. And when he did see her, even after months of this, a surge of joy rose up in his chest, and he scooped her up to say hello, and she put her little white paws on his shoulders, and he carried her through, and they had their quiet evening. As time went by, and Kira got used to him, she stayed inside more and more. They had weekends together, and she almost always slept at the end of his bed. She had special towels she sat on, special dishes she ate and drank out of, a special spot on the sofa she liked to be. When he sat down with his sketches, sometimes she just slept and let him get on with it, but sometimes she crept up and slid her paw over the paper slowly. He just laughed, told her she was naughty, and cuddled up with her. Well, what was he supposed to do? Just leave her there, thinking he didn't want her? Never. He knew he was being manipulated, and he didn't mind a bit. He didn't like his job any better, nor his accommodations, but his routine, his gray-green routine, didn't feel so dour anymore, and food didn't look so disgusting, and he didn't feel so tired. And he began to think, well, if this is it, that's okay. It's not so bad. For a couple of years he thought this, and was happy enough. One summer, the third summer of their acquaintance, Kira came to his door looking a bit tired. This wasn't uncommon. He didn't know what she got up to during the day, but usually her biggest activity was napping. Over the next few weeks she seemed less playful and more tired, but maybe that wasn't unusual. He didn't know how old she was, and maybe she had just lost that kittenish sense of play. Once, as she went to jump up on the bed, she faltered. He picked her up immediately, like a concerned parent, and checked her. She didn't seem bothered by it, and didn't have any trouble the next time she tried. When he thinks back on it now, there were signs. The faltering became more common. She was far more interested in drinking than eating, but because she'd always been such a small cat, he didn't pay much attention to her weight loss. In the final weeks of summer, she became listless at times, hunching up on her hind legs as if it pained her to sit any other way. But she still ran when she heard the crinkle of tinfoil, still greeted him every day at the door, still purred, still woke him up in the morning. She started peeing inside, guiltily looking up at him as she sat hunched in the bathroom, a little puddle beside her, and he could only congratulate her for doing it on the tiles and not on his bed. She moved less and less. She barely spoke at all. She seemed to want to be with him more and more. He left her inside during the day. Once, bored and looking around online, he read an article on cat behavior, and it said that cats blink to communicate with each other, that a long, slow blink indicates their comfort and, sometimes, their love. He tried, off and on, to blink at her this way, to see what she'd do. She did nothing, naturally. He doesn't know how an animal can look put off, but Kiara always managed it. He must admit, he liked that about her, that you had to earn her love. She wasn't just going to give it to you. One night he came home and sat down on the sofa, and she jumped up on his lap and put her head very close to his, giving him a long, slow blink. He felt so gratified he let her sleep right on him that night. The next day was a beautiful day, and she wanted to go outside. He didn't see her for 3 days after that. This wasn't so strange either. She did like to be outside and would take off, rarely for 3 days, but she did have adventures. And then one evening, as the days were starting to get shorter and the evenings cooler, he saw her waiting at his door again. She was visibly thinner than when she'd left. She looked confused, like she knew this door's smell and that she should be there, but she couldn't quite remember why or who he was. He opened the door and had to coax her inside. She choked on her water. She took no food. She threw up whatever she did have in her. He watched over her that night, only sleeping at intervals, her tired little body next to his pillow. In the morning he took off work and took her to the vet, who gave her anti-nausea pills and sent them home with a $200 bill and not much in the way of comfort. He gave her the pills as instructed. She grew weaker. She refused to eat or drink. He went and bought a syringe and baby food and Pedialyte, and the lady at the cash there, too, gave him a funny look, and he wanted to bark at her, "Fuck you, my baby's dying." He rushed home and tried to feed her. She didn't like syringe in her mouth and fought it, which at least showed some life left in her, but took it down anyway. He waited by her side to see if she'd keep it down, and she did. She did. And he fed her and gave her the electrolytes a few more times before going to sleep himself. She couldn't be on the bed with him, so he set himself up with a couple of pillows on the floor next to her. It was the least he could do. A few times during the night he heard thumps, and he woke up each time in a state, his heart in his throat, his stomach dropping. Each time it seemed she had attempted, in her starved and weakened state, to move towards him. He carefully set her back on her special towels, piled thickly so she wouldn't have to feel the hard surface beneath. He wanted so badly to pick her up and let her lay on his chest, but he was frightened it may do something bad to her. It may hurt her or make her uncomfortable. And then she started to cough and retch, and he ran to get the syringe and the electrolyte water, and when he picked her up with the towels, it was like carrying the air, and he saw her eyes wide open and her little lungs not moving. He put his fingertips to her heart and felt it faintly beating. He snapped his fingers in her face. He called her name. When he finally accepted she was dead, he wrapped her up in her special towel and, not wanting to leave her alone in some room, gently put her in a box by his bed and waited until it was light. He took her and a shovel and walked out to the park and buried her there in a nice sunny spot with heather all around it. He stayed there with her for a few hours, sitting on the dewy grass and squeezing her little tinfoil ball in his hand. A young woman came round one of the hills and, seeing him there, sniffling and wiping at his eyes, retreated to her male companion, and he heard her say, "Oh, let's not go this way. Some junkie's sitting there. Why, I don't know. He seems a little unsteady. I told you we shouldn't come out here so early. You don't know who you'll meet." "No, you don't." He dried his face and got up eventually. He went home, showered, went to work. When he finished his shift, he was given a warning for not coming in the previous day and being late today. "There are lots of people who'd like your job, son." Son. He felt like saying, "Oh, well, let them have it." He was about to explain himself, but instead nodded and cast his eyes down. He went to the corner store. He went home. He drank himself into a stupor. When he opened the door to go to work the next day, the sky was gray-green and the air was thick.